Pick a goal that you want, take an action towards it every day, measure yourself against where you started, and then look forward and do the same thing again the next day. You'll never feel guilty in your life.
What happens there is you just have this chokehold on what you've created. You're just like, I can't, like, my kids are going to grow up and they're going to be gone in 5 years, and you're almost panicking. So you're like overcompensating in that area because you don't want to let it go, because that's what you dreamed and what you created.
Freedom doesn't happen by accident. It's built. Welcome to Freedom by Design, where we explore what it really takes to create more freedom in your life, your business, and your relationships. We're Josh and Paula Kirpin, and this is intentional living done right.
Welcome back to Freedom by Design. We're really excited to talk about this topic today, and I think that it's going to resonate with everybody, regardless of if you're male, female. This is something that you listen to for parenting or relationships or business. It's going to resonate, I believe, with every single person that listens to it. So I'm really excited to talk about the concept of removing the guilt. So when you think of guilt, what does your mind automatically go to? Have you experienced that? And how would you define that, I guess, in your life and business?
I don't know how to answer that, quite frankly. So just for fair warning, she sprung this topic on me here this morning, but I don't feel a lot of guilt anymore. I mean, there's been times in the past where I felt guilt, and that was where I was taking actions that were not aligned basically with who I saw myself as being, right? Mm-hmm. So if you are guilty of something, you've done something that goes against the law of, like, society, right? So if you're guilty of breaking the law, you have broken the law, you're found guilty. I have an understanding now of the laws and the way that the world, the universe works. I'm not really talking so much about, our local speed limit laws and those types of things. And I just try and live within those laws because life gets a lot better. You cannot break those laws. You can only break yourself against those laws. So I really try not to. I don't know that I feel a lot of guilt anymore, but there's definitely been times in the past that I did. So
I think that it is something that women feel, and our women listeners are going to resonate with, and has come up in my Empower Her coaching series. We did a conversation around detoxing from guilt or removing the guilt, a similar sort of topic as this. And I think with women and mothers, we have so many different sections on our plate that we're trying to quote unquote balance, which I know how you feel about that, or multitask, or have our hands in multiple things. And oftentimes when we're building a business, or we are, moving into our career, or whatever it is that we want to pursue, we often feel and experience mom guilt or family guilt, like we're not spending enough time there, and vice versa. So how can you speak to, that concept of feeling pulled in multiple directions and feeling guilty when you're not in one of those spaces because you're showing up in the other?
So that guilt arises from your performance not meeting the expectations, and it arises from you not creating your own expectations.
I was going to say, whose expectation?
That's exactly it, right? So it's like society has created these expectations of a person's, let's say a mom or a woman in this example, and you need to live up to those. If you don't, you're likely going to feel guilty, right? So it is the law. It is your municipality or government's expectations that you don't break the laws that it sets, right? And if you do, it calls you guilty. Well, if whatever expectations are set for you personally, if you don't meet those expectations, you're going to feel guilty. If you are accepting expectations from anything or anybody outside of you, then you are likely going to feel guilty, but you shouldn't, because they're not your expectations. So it's actually kind of ridiculous. So it comes down to understanding yourself, taking control of your life, your future. What do you want to do? Setting your own expectations. And when you set the bar, and now if you fall short, you learn from it, but you probably don't need to feel guilty unless you just didn't put in the effort.
I think that is, easier said than done in a lot of ways. And I know that I struggle with this and have struggled with it lots in the past, until I kind of had an idea of the goals and the ideal that I wanted to pursue. Because as a mother, you always feel pulled to be spending more time with your kids. Everything happens so fast. You want to be as present as possible. And I think it's different as a mother versus a father. And maybe you can speak to that. But I know just from having so many conversations with other women, which is part of the reason why I made my coaching group, is because I see this issue of guilt showing up for women day after day after day. And like you said, it's an expectation that we put on ourselves to do all of the things. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I know it's not to be ambitious and to pursue a passion and to pursue a goal as a mother. But it is something that we constantly get caught in, is that mom guilt of not being present with our kids, all the time, which is not possible anyways. But
Okay. So you spoke about getting pulled in two different directions.
yeah,
Right. You only then talked about the one direction, about being pulled towards, being with your kids, spending time with your kids.
yeah.
What's pulling you in the other direction?
Well, it does pull me. It's the piece where I'm stepping into my potential and living up to my goals and aspirations, which in turn shows my kids that they're able to do that as well, even if they're a parent or a mother or father, right? So I feel pulled to pursue those things because it's the impact and the value that I'm adding and creating to the world. But I also feel pulled to just be present as a mother. And I think that goes back to the expectation piece of you. How are you spending your time, and how are you really crystal clear on what you're doing at any certain time versus being pulled, task switching and being pulled in different directions.
So one of those one of those forces is pulling you, and it's quite a natural pull.
Yeah.
And that's not like, it's very hard to escape that. The other is pulling you in the other direction, and that's more societal expectations put on women.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think what needs to be said here is that depending on the stage of motherhood that you're in, your ability to juggle those two forces is somewhat constrained.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you've got small kids, they rely on you a lot more than your kids do now. Your kids are getting to be, my kids as well, I suppose, are getting to be fairly independent, right? So they're requiring a little bit less of you as time goes on, which is freeing you up to be able to sort of move your energy in some other different directions. But there was a time when it basically consumed all of your energy. And if you're in that space, that's pretty natural. Like when you have 4 little kids consuming all your energy, that's just the way that it goes, right? When you choose to become a parent, when you're in that space and you're trying to be pulled into doing a whole bunch of other things, yeah, you will only have so many units of energy to go around. And that's probably where you're going to start feeling guilt. Once you move beyond that space and you start having maybe a little bit of extra time, a little bit of extra energy to invest in other places, you're going to have to kind of create basically a new self-image, right?
Mm-hmm,
because
right.
Your paradigm is so ingrained that you need to spend all your time with these kids, but the kids, they don't need you as much as they once did. Now that's a hard pill to swallow, right?
Yeah.
And someday your kids are going to go out of the house and they're going to basically need you at all. Now that they're always going to need you. You're always going to be there for them. That's not what I mean. But if that reliance on you just decreases pretty rapidly over time, right? And at some point, you want them to be entirely dependent really on themselves, period, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they're dependent on you or anything outside of themselves, then you're setting them up for failure. That's it.
Right.
Right. So you have to be able to manage your half of that, because if your identity as a parent is tied up in just being a parent to your kids, you're never going to be able to fully release them to be the independent being that they were created to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a disaster for you and your kids.
I think a lot of moms and friends of mine who are in this situation where their kids are kind of similar age to ours, early teens, kind of preteens, so we see the end, like it's coming, when they're going to graduate. It's only a handful of more years, 4 or 5 years. And it's a little bit of a panic inducing feeling, because once you have a child, your identity as a woman becomes being a mother, because it's so demanding of your time, right? And everybody wants that as a woman. It's a naturally innate thing to be able to have a child. So you have your definition of yourself becomes being a mother. And then you slowly have to tear away from that in a sense, because you are not defined by your kids, and your kids are not defined by you. Like, they are their own person. You are there to facilitate their growth and to facilitate their goals and their passions, but your goals and your aspirations cannot be your kids. And I think there's so many women that are kind of caught up in that they want what's best for their kids and they want to help their kids pursue things, but that then becomes their definition of success and their goal.
Yeah, you're living vicariously through your children.
Right, and you see it all the
And
time.
then when they go up to the plate and strike out, you have struck out and you're mad.
Yeah,
And they aren't mad because they didn't even see it as failure until they see you mad about it. And now they start taking on your personality because you're not living your life for yourself. But yeah, so that's a challenging thing, to be able to move in and out of those. But that is life, right? I mean, I look at life as a play, and in it you move through the play in a series of acts, and in every act you play a different character. The first sort of half of life, all of the characters that you play, it's really a pretty natural progression. You're not consciously choosing a lot of them. It's just a natural progression, right? You're a baby, you learn to walk, you learn to talk, you grow up, you're a teenager, you kind of start figuring out life, you learn to drive, you graduate, you go get a job, get married, have kids, get sort of financially secure. And then it's like, that's it. Like that's sort of the end of the natural progression. The next progression is retirement, taxes, and death.
Well, I find what happens there is you just have this chokehold on what you've created, right? Because you're just like, I can't, like, my kids are going to grow up and they're going to be gone in 5 years, and you're almost panicking. So you're like overcompensating in that area because you don't want to let it go, because that's what you dreamed and what you created. But what I have found, because I struggled with this a ton, and like you said, with 4 young kids, you're in it, and that side of me required a lot of my attention, obviously. But what I have found since setting a goal, because a common conversation I have with moms who are feeling stuck or lack purpose or feel this guilt is that they don't feel worthy of setting a goal, but they also think that it's just overwhelming to think of something to be striving for towards on their own. And what I have found since making my worthy goal crystal clear is it's aligned me enough so that it's managed my day-to-day expectations of feeling pulled in all these directions. Therefore, I'm feeling less guilt because I know the direction that I'm going. So I can say no to things that don't align with the direction that I'm going. And so I spend the time doing what I'm doing to pursue my goal. But then I'm also, when I'm not, I can be fully present as a parent and a mother and not feel pulled in all these different directions and have that guilt creep up, which I think is a really important concept to
people they just take on too much stuff. They're thinking about way too many things, going in too many different directions. They have no focus. So yeah, you feel scattered, and you don't meet expectations because you don't even have any expectations, because your expectations is just like this, like roller coaster kind of flying around in your head, all these different thoughts. So how can you possibly meet your expectations? And you're going to feel guilt.
Well,
so decide what you want and get after it.
Right? You're simply surviving. You're trying to keep everybody alive. Nobody's thriving. You're just kind of like trying to keep your hands on all of these things and feeling guilty about not doing anything well. And that comes back to like the balance and multitasking, which talked about on a coaching call last week, you have to be fully present where you're at to complete the task that you're doing. Even on our 100X call the other day, one of the farmer ranchers was saying that he used to be so busy in his day-to-day, he would never fill the tractor fully up with fuel. He would only do however much time he had patience for. Josh had done the same thing. But then he would leave and he would have to go back and complete that task. So he never actually finished any of the tasks. And I feel like so many, like we're talking mostly about mothers today, but so many parents and just people in general are in that boat because they're being pulled in so many directions because they don't know which direction they're headed in.
Yeah, they haven't taken control of their life. Exactly. They have no idea what it's all about. And I mean, we're just talking about focus. Your ability to focus on what's important to you. I mean, decide what's important to you, then focus on it, when most people just don't focus. I shouldn't say that. You're always focusing, but most people don't choose what they focus on.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And they don't have anything, they've never decided anything worth choosing what to focus on.
If you've been listening to this podcast, you already know something. You're built for more. The 100X Breakthrough Program is built for leaders, business owners, and growth-driven individuals who are ready to stop playing at the edge of their potential and start operating at a completely different level. If you know you're capable of more, but you're still stuck, this is your next step. Let's schedule an instant impact coaching session and see if the 100X Breakthrough Program is the right fit for you. Go to kznsolutions.ca. That's kznsolutions.ca.
So I think too, as parents, often you touched on this a little bit with the sports analogy there, but we tie our self-worth to our kids' successes. Speak a little bit to that, and I guess why we do that And maybe it just comes back to the fact that we don't have a clear direction of our own. But um, why do we do that?
But you don't know who you are. You don't have an image of yourself. You don't know who you are. You
Mhm.
think you're this body and this being, and you think that you're a farmer, a rancher, a nurse, or whatever it is that you do on a daily basis. That's what you think you are. And all those things go away, and most of them can be taken away from you,
Mhm.
right? And so you have to find something else to attach to give you an identity. So we attach to our kids because they're young and vibrant, and there's still hope for them to do something cool. Well, the reality is as long as you wake up in the morning, there's hope for you to do something cool if you take control of your life.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I want you to answer this question for me because I think it's a really interesting one. Does comparison make guilt worse in our lives? Like the constant comparison.
I think if you got actual true comparison, there would be no guilt. The comparison happens when you're looking at people's Instagram profiles.
Yeah.
And you see what they have, you don't see how they got it. And you don't see behind the scenes. You see when they're all made up and they're on their podcast and they did their hair properly, but you don't see what they looked like when it was hitting the fan that morning or whatever it is. So that's it. I think it's just a fake world. People are comparing themselves to fake things.
I definitely think that makes the guilt worse because it makes you compare to somebody. You don't have any idea what the situation is, but it makes you feel like, oh, they're taking action, they're doing the things over here, and I'm not doing anything. So it again can just amplify those feelings and make us feel worse about ourselves, which sort of spirals into more guilt, I guess. It's like a circular thing, I think.
Well, anything that puts you in a negative vibration, a negative state of mind, a negative thought, worry, doubt, fear, jealousy, envy, any of those things is going to make your life crap. That's it. Right? So when you look at somebody who has something that you want, you have two options. You can say, man, I wish I had what they want. I'm not as lucky as them. I'm not whatever it is. Or you can say, I'm so happy for them. And they've shown that it's possible to get that. I'm going to figure out how to get that. That's it. Pick which side you want and don't make it any more complicated than that. But people do, and they'll say, if, then, or but. I mean, that's a big one, right? I could have that. I could have the same thing, but. Everybody's got their excuses. Their excuses are, well, I won't say it, but no, everybody's got them.
So what would be your call to action or homework, I guess, for somebody who is experiencing a ton of guilt in their life? What would you recommend them to start doing to kind of figure out what all that guilt looks like or where it's coming from and then move forward from it? Because I think you can kind of get stuck in a pit of just feeling sorry for yourself and just feeling like you're not enough. What would be your suggestion or advice to be able to move forward past that?
Gratitude cures all. Easier said than done because you can write down the things that you're grateful for and not feel it. You have to go down and find the feeling. And being able to control your emotions is a skill, and it takes practice. You can solve any of these problems, any of these challenges. They all take some degree of practice or work or consistent effort to develop a skill. It's all sort of about skills. But I would start with gratitude, list everything that you're thankful for. We have a mindset emergency kit that I'll give to people, and that's it. It starts with gratitude, and then the next step is, what do you want? Find something that you want. Find something that you desire, build that desire, and you'll stop thinking about all the things that you don't want. People talk about people getting lucky and that, some people, everything they touch turns to gold and they're so lucky, this and that. There's no such thing as good luck or bad luck. There's just good attitudes and bad attitudes. The ability for good things to happen in your life is correlated to the ability for you to be able to recognize the good things that happen in your life.
Yeah, we often will do, share some wins on our coaching calls. And it's interesting because some people have a struggle to, recall a win from the week or the day or whatever. So when you have to do a gratitude practice where you write down 3 wins, is what I do every single morning. It really forces you to look for the good in your life, find the good, right? And it can be the most mundane, simple thing, but the act of writing that down and recognizing that in your life and all the great things that you have puts you in a completely different frame of mind. Like your attitude, like you spoke of, is so important because that's the lens through which you see the whole entire day, the whole entire week. And it just totally changes the way that you
see it
operate.
all the time. Like you ask somebody, what were your wins for this week? And they say, there wasn't anybody. And I won't reply. I'll just ask the question and I'll wait for as long as it takes.
Yeah.
And they'll eventually be like, oh, well, I guess this happened. I'm like, well, that's good.
Yeah.
And then I guess this happened. And all of a sudden they got sort of a bucket full of wins.
Yeah.
Some days survival is a win. Like, I mean, some days are just full of challenges, and surviving challenges is a win. So that you can get up the next day, find the opportunities from those challenges and go and take those on. But your ability to recognize wins is very important. Again, it's sort of a skill to practice, right? And the better mindset, the better state of mind that you are in, the better your ability to recognize the good things in your life. The more you recognize the good things in your life, the more good things happen. It's a momentum builder, right? I mean, that's it. You get the ball rolling, you keep it rolling by consistently recognizing the good things. And I mean, life just gets better. It's like, it's not that difficult. It is so simple. It is so simple. And people just think that success and happiness and all the good things that are available in life is like something super complex. It is so simple. It just blows your mind when you understand it. People just aren't, it's illogical how simple it is. So they have a tough time putting in the consistent work, but that's it. It's so simple.
I read somewhere, and I loved this concept of guilt being emotional weight without clear direction. So you're letting your emotions drive you forward in some direction that you're not aware of, right? So if we take intention and move in a direction with intentionality and take ownership of our actions, we feel and experience a lot less guilt because we're not being driven by that emotional cluster, I guess.
Okay,
right?
so if you want to know how to get rid of guilt in your life, period, this is it. I'll give you the roadmap. Very simple.
Okay.
Pick a goal that you want, take an action towards it every day, measure yourself against where you started, looking back, and then look forward and do the same thing again the next day. And you'll never feel guilty in your life because you'll be taking one step closer to your goal every day. And that's it. I mean, that's it. Simple. If you do that every day of your life, you'll never feel guilty again. Just don't, and you'll be like, well, what about everybody else? Don't worry about everybody else. What are you worried about? You can't control them. You can't do anything about them. Don't worry about them. They're not going to the same place you're going to. They're not going through the same things you're going through. Just worry about yourself. That's it.
Yeah. I love that. Super simple. People often overcomplicate things like this, but it is just so simple. I love that.
Yep. Excuses galore. This is why I can't do this. You got this and I don't have this. No, that's just not how it works.
Awesome. Love that. Great conversation.
That's it. Okay, we'll wrap it up. Thanks for being here.
Appreciate it.
Freedom by Design. Talk to you next time. We appreciate you being part of Freedom by Design. If this conversation added value, help us spread the love. Take a second to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. The more intentional we become, the more freedom we create in our homes, our work, and our future. We'll see you next time. God bless.